Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to Olainfarm this year's first quarter webinar. I expect this webinar to be really interesting as this first quarter has hit a new profit record. This was the most profitable first quarter in Olainfarm history. Its profits reached 3.7 million euros. Forward, Salvis Lapiņš, the member of Olainfarm Management Board, will inform you in detail about first quarter results. But before Salvis begins with his presentation, a quick reminder for those who have joined us for the first time. Right after the presentation, we will open the floor for questions and answers. So please use the chat pod on your right side of the screen to send in questions. We have also received questions via investors portal naudaslietas.lv. That will be given a preference, and we will address the rest of the questions afterwards. Salvis, please, the floor is all yours with the presentation.
Thank you, Anita. Good afternoon, everyone. I see the number of participants is not as big as usually. Probably it's either everybody knows everything about us or the summer has already started. Thanks for your nice words, Agita. Following that logic, recently almost all our webinars should be very interesting because nearly every single quarter we finish with some sort of record. So this has not been an exception. And indeed, we made 3.7 million euros in net profit, which is best first quarter in our corporate history. But now let us go through that and see what exactly have we done and how exactly we have achieved that. So let's start with the sales. Made a bit more than 23 million euros in sales in this quarter. So this has been an increase by 30% compared to last year. Also in terms of sales, this has been the best corporate history. Best quarter in our corporate history. And partially, of course, it has been achieved because, as you remember, last year in Q1, we had very limited shipments to Ukraine. So it was, of course, easier to make a new record. But not only that, and you will see this a bit later, also our pharmacy chain made about 3.8 million euros in sales, which is an increase by 19%. And daughter company Silvanals made the sales of 0.81 million euros or 800,000 euros, which is roughly at the level of last year. But then knowing their dependency on cough and cold medicines, and there wasn't really any serious winter or any outbreaks of flu whatsoever. So that segment itself hasn't been performing terribly well. So their market share has been increasing, and that is good news. In the meantime, I see that we have a first polling question. Please feel free to vote. First questions are very traditional ones, and normally the first question is we are curious which countries they're coming from. So trying to figure out more about our investors base and base of those that are interested in us. So what happened to the profits? Yes, indeed, they've been at 3.7 million euros, and that's an increase by 32%. And again, it's the best Q1 in our corporate history. Also, of course, the fact that Ukraine has been undershipped last year has helped us a bit. But also for those of you that have been here and have been speaking about this several times, this is a big factory, by Latvian standards at least, and the fixed costs are reasonably high. So once you are comfortably above the break-even point, your margins go up disproportionately high. So once we have demonstrated good sales, it's of course easier to show bigger margins, and of course that's one of the reasons why EBITDA has been up to 27% compared to about 22% first quarter of last year. So bigger sales has also contributed to big margins, not only directly to the bottom line. In the meantime, I see the next polling question. Also very much traditional one. We've seen our quarterly results, and we normally ask you to comment. And what do you think of them? Do you think they are better than expected? Do you think they are worse than expected, or they are pretty much what you expected them to be? Now let's see where we have been selling our products in first quarter of this year. So basically, this picture hasn't changed significantly. Russia is pretty much stagnant. Ukraine is, for reasons we all know, is a bit smaller than it usually is. Belarus is of course surprising us third year in a row. It's up 47%, despite the fact that they have been growing nicely for several years in a row, and the base is reasonably high. Uzbekistan is up. That's of course a smaller market, but it's still up 67%. And significant shipments have been made to the Netherlands, which is, as you probably know, the home of the warehouse of the World Health Organization, and we are the authorized producer, qualified producer of one of the anti-tuberculosis products used worldwide. Smaller markets for us, that would be Lithuania and Spain, have been growing by more than 170%, and all the others are up for 400%. From the bigger markets, the only one falling really is Kazakhstan. And I remember last webinar I was talking about the devaluation for 20% of Kazakh's national currency, the tenge, and there are reasons to believe that that event, that devaluation, is certainly to blame for difficulties with that market. Well, if you look at the product now, those of you that have been following us on a more regular basis may have noticed the difference. I mean, since we've been publishing this pie chart, Nairobedin has been a very, very, very clear leader. Sometimes its share reaching up to 24-25%. So since we do this observation, Nairobedin's share is the smallest ever. That's 19%. At the same time, Nurofen and Adaptol have been growing, and Pharma have been growing by 2 to 3 percentage points each. Fenkarol is down to 5% in total shares. Later on, when we look at the growth drivers, we see what exactly that means. We see that the paraminosalicic acid, which is the anti-tuberculosis product I was talking about, has been stabilizing at the level of 5%, meaning that WHO is constantly purchasing its anti-tuberculosis products from us now. So if we go further and look at where is this growth exactly coming from, if you look at the products, you'll see that indeed Nairobedin has been falling just a little bit by a tiny margin of roughly 1%. But then the next three products you see are absolute growth drivers for this quarter. Nurofen, our number 2 product now, has been growing by 71%. Pharma has been growing by 62%, and Adaptol is growing by 44%. Paraminosalicic acid, or PASA, has been growing by 600%, but that's of course because of a small base year ago, but it also has been contributing to the growth. So Nairobedin, Fenkarol, from our leading products, they are about even. Etazine has experienced some smaller growth. And the only significant reduction in sales you can see in Remantadine. As you know, Remantadine is our viral anti-flu product, and that product really depends on whether or not there has been any outbreak of flu in the regions that we operate. Since this year there hasn't been any significant outbreak of flu in our regions, therefore Remantadine hasn't been performing as nicely as it was 1 year ago. In the meantime, I see there is a third poll question. I'll be back to it. Please leave it there for a moment. If we look at the countries, as I said, Russia has been somewhat stagnant, at least for Q1. For those of you who follow our monthly sales figures, know that then in April, Russia has been doing great with more than 100% increase. Latvia, of course, is nicely up. Ukraine is nicely up, but that again, because last year we've been selling there really for 1 month out of 3, so that's easy figure to outperform. Belarus keeps surprising us, grows all the time. Netherlands, as I told you, these are the shipments to the World Health Organization, so added a bit of growth. So to sum it up, from all these 15 countries, the only 2 countries actually falling were Kazakhstan and Italy. Italy is pretty much the market for our chemical products, and some shipment has probably this year come later than last year. Kazakhstan, as I said, the issues with the national currency has probably played a bad joke on many markets and many sellers there. So to wrap it up, basically the growth really comes from Adaptol, Movon, and Furamag in Latvia, Ukraine, and Belarus. But that's probably too simple way of saying that. So the recent events, a bit more than a month ago, we had an AGM. That was April 29th. Among other things, we've decided on following issues that no dividends should be paid for 2013. We also defined our sales and profit targets, and the poll questions are this poll question is about whether or not you think we will meet them, we would underperform compared to the targets, or we will overperform. So please feel free to vote. As I see, about one half of you think that we will meet them quite precisely. So the targets are, for consolidated sales, it's 93 million euros, which represents an increase by 19%. And profit target for consolidated figures is 15 million euros, which also is an increase by 19%. If you look at the Olainfarm alone, then we plan 18 million euros and in sales and 14 million in profits, which is an increase by 20% and 9% respectively. Then for those of you that are following what we regularly publish, you see that according to what we've published for sales in 4 months and profits in 3 months, we are very slightly ahead of the schedule. So far there are reasons to believe that we might as well be able to make it or maybe even slightly outperform, but there are still 9 years in this month to go that we haven't really accounted for. Now, in the meantime, we have submitted 7 products into Mongolia. Out of them, we have 3 registered, so we have obtained market authorizations for them and are free to start selling them. And also for especially for analysts, probably you've noticed that we have replaced so-called periodical formats of profit and loss statement with the functional format. So this is probably more widely used in the financial world for analysis, and probably it will be then easier for some of you, especially not those that are not that sophisticated in financial analysis, to understand what exactly is happening in the company. And hence the next polling question is for those of you that have been following us, have been noticing this change in our P&L format, is which of the formats you like best? The functional one that was that they used before, that they use now, or the periodical one that we used before up until Q1 this year. Now this would be the sort of official part. This would be it for the official part of the webinar, and every time I try to go into a bit greater detail on some of the issues, topics somehow related to our company. And for a number of times, both in this webinar and previous webinars, I have been telling you how sort of surprised I am about our success in Belarus, how we have been growing there in this market, which is not necessarily the most financially stable. And so I decided that this time I'll go into a bit greater detail about what it is we do in Belarus, how does Belarusian market looks like, and how our product is doing there. So Belarus, the neighboring country for us, and for those of you joining us in from Lithuania. So as you know, they have a population of about 10 million people. Capital Minsk has about 18% of that, or 1.8 million inhabitants. Unlike Baltic countries, Minsk has, besides capital, it has several reasonably sizable towns that are their regional centers. Those would be Gomel, Mogilev, Vitebsk, Grodno, and Brest, with the combined population about 2 million people too. GDP per capita in that country in 2012 was 11,500 euros per person, which for comparison about 75% of GDP, for instance, Latvian GDP. So how is pharma market in Belarus doing? So pharmaceutical market in Belarus last year was worth about 760 million euros. It has been growing quite nicely since 2010. You see in the charts in 2011, that was the year in Belarus when they had 3 devaluations in a row. So obviously in 2011 there was some falling in that market. Also, what you can see from this chart, the pharmacies, or the so-called commercial part of the business, is growing much faster than the government funded part of a business or hospitals, and that budgetary constraints could probably be one of those reasons. Belarus has all the time been rather protectionist, and they now target to replace 70% of imports with locally manufactured products, and they plan to do that within a year from now. My comment on this would be that even very highly developed nations in terms of pharmaceuticals have not managed to do that in a much longer periods of time. So my assessment of this ambitious target would be very careful. In total, there are 600 pharmaceutical companies selling their products in Belarus in 2013. So despite the market not being terribly big, it not being the most stable market, it has turned out to be quite an interesting one for many producers of pharmaceutical products. So how do we look now? We are in this market. We are selling to that market since 1998, so for 16 years now. And our rep office was established there almost 10 years ago. We have medical representatives in absolutely all the regional centers. We have 40 professionals working for us there. Secondary sales last year were worth 6.8 million euros, and they've grown by 65% compared to 2010. So we have been growing faster there than the market. And last year, of all the 600 producers selling something in Belarus, we were number 32. So not bad position. And our share of total Belarus market is 0.9%, and it is growing. So if you look at particular products, our leading product in Belarus is Adaptol, not Nerimidine as it is generally. And in that segment, we hold now 51% of the market. So total sales in the segment are 3.1 million euros, and the segment itself, since 2010, has grown by 80%. So very impressive growth, way above the average growth of the Belarusian pharma market. And now you can see how our secondary sales have grown over the last 4 years, and you can also see how our market share has grown. So since 2010, our market share has grown from 40% to 51%, and our secondary sales of that product have reached nearly 1.6 million euros. So our other product there is Nufen. That product is number 3 in the market. It's not the leading one, with 9% market share. Total sales in this segment is 8.4 million euros. This segment hasn't been growing that fast. It has been growing by 29% since 2010. But then again, if you look at our sales in 2011, you remember the year of devaluations, we have experienced some reduction there of our sales and our market share, but 2013 has been exceptional for Nufen in Belarus. Not only have we increased our sales significantly from about 450,000 euros to almost 760,000 euros, but we have also managed to significantly increase our market share to 9.12%. So if we go to the next product, which is Fenkarol, which is anti-allergic product. Total sales of anti-allergic products in Belarus are 7.3 million euros, and the segment itself has grown significantly by 51% since 2010. So even if with some products we are market leaders and our share might be big, and sometimes it seems that our growth there has almost reached the ceiling. You know, the segments themselves are growing nicely, so there are still probably nice place to grow to. So for antihistamines, Fenkarol is the market leader in Belarus last year. And here as well, you can see in our secondary sales chart that we had some slowdown in 2011, but growing ever since quite nicely. If you look at the right side chart, the market share, it seems like very unstable, but then again, the scale of the axis on your right side is very small. So basically, these are fluctuations between 14.5% and 14.9%. So you can say that for Fenkarol, our market share is quite stable at the level of 15% there for the last 4 years. Furamag, again, one of the products we are not only are we the market leaders, but we have occupied more than half of that market. We are clear market leaders. The segment itself is very small, though. It's 1.6 million euros. And since 2010, it has grown by 44%. Here, Furamag, that's our branded product, and we can quite clearly identify that. But number 2 product is Furagame. Furagame is a generic product, and basically in more than half in this second biggest product, more than half of those 21%, this is also something that we produce. So the combined share of Olainfarm products in this segment would probably be somewhere in the area of 65%. But if you look separately at Furamag only, you see the secondary sales chart is pretty similar, but market share also mind the small scale there. But we are in market share. We also over the last 4 years have been fluctuating about around 50%. So very strong positions for our products in these markets. Nervidine. So we totally rule the market with this product. The problem, however, is that this segment is very small. It's about 0.9 million euros and hasn't been growing that nicely. Since 2010, it has actually shrunk by 16%. And so have our share of the market, and so have our sales to the market. But still holding 80% of the market share is I would say very impressive, and a good job there done by our med reps. Etitizine, another branded product of ours. Also here we are the market leader, having 50% of sales. Segment itself isn't huge; it's 2.2 million euros, but has been growing nicely by 6 to 8%. So these are antiarrhythmic products. As you see, both our market share and secondary sales have grown quite nicely, have been high since 2010 and growing quite nicely, and seems they are continuing to grow, at least by looking at our sales to Belarus. We could have that impression. Now, for Belarus, since we have been performing there quite well over the last number of years, this is one of the markets that we have agreed with other producers that have not been that successful in Belarus, that we would be providing them with the marketing and to some extent logistics service. We started that in 2012. Well, basically our first ideas showed up in 2010, and we also got the first products and shelves in 2012. That pretty much reflects of how slow sometimes pharmaceutical regulatory work could be. Nevertheless, we started to sell the first product in 2012. Currently, we provide that service totally to 3 producers, and we market and pretty much distribute or provide the digital service for 4 different products. We plan many more products to be added to this list in 2014. And now you can see the dynamics. Last year, totally, we sold our products worth 360,000 euros, and now in 4 months we have sold those partner products already for 200,000 euros. So obviously there will be growth this year, and as more products are coming in, we may expect that the share of others producers' sales in in our consolidated sales to Belarus could as well be as high as 700,000 to 800,000 euros. So that was it. That was the presentation. That was a short overview of how Belarus market has been growing recently and how successful or unsuccessful, if you like, we've been there. So this is about time for Q&A session. I'll be more than glad to answer your questions, see your comments. You can write them down in the right lower corner in the chat section. So yeah, I'm ready for your questions. Egita?
Thank you, Salvis, for presentation. And now we will proceed with the questions which were received via investors portal nowtheslatest.lv. And let's start. The first question is, according to first quarter report, you plan to enter Mongolia market this year. What is the situation in Mongolia in relation to possible competitors, and how hard do you think it will be to enter the market?
Well, Mongolian market hasn't been too attractive for other producers, although China is really a very neighboring state. We of course done our study of that market, and prior to start any regulatory work, any work with market authorizations, we of course analyzed what do we have in our portfolio and what do we think is sellable and could be sold very nicely in this country. And out of our 50 plus names, we identified only 7 that are worth pursuing in Mongolia. And out of those 7, we have market authorizations for 3. So what's happening now is we are in selection. We are in selection of staff for our rep office. And we expect that, and we are in process of selection the partners, the wholesalers of Mongolian pharma market. So if all goes pretty much well, then maybe not the next webinar, but webinar after that, which is 6 months from now, I could be reporting you about some first. Of course, first sales will be very small, but at least could be reporting about the first sales taking place to that market. Expectations, of course, are not that huge because Mongolian market. Presented with, at the moment with 3 products, so I don't expect Mongolia to appear in our top 10 countries.
And next question is about what's the situation in other Asian markets?
About 4 years ago, and for those of you that are following our monthly sales reports, you can see that it's almost every month you can see some of those countries in our top 10 list. If you look at the other Asian countries, we have submitted several cases for registration in Turkey, and we are expecting audit by Turkish authorities this year. And so see how this registration process moves on after that. Southeast Asia has, I've told it a number of times, it has really been made some mistakes at the time when we tried to enter it, and there is nothing optimistic to report about those markets. We still have 1 representative for those countries. Several files are submitted. but it doesn't seem that the registration process is moving at any decent pace there. Agita?
Thank you. And the next question is like this. Olainfarm is a sponsor of quite many exclusive and big cultural and sports events. What is the main target you want to achieve by doing that? And do you consider yourself as a socially responsible company? And if yes, how much are you ready to invest to keep the status?
Yes and no. I mean, I'm really glad to see that those few musical events that we have sponsored have created an impression that we sponsor that many of them. It's basically two festivals that we sponsor. We are one of the sponsors. One of them would be Riga Rhythms, which is an international jazz event, and then festivals organized by Ines Galante, which would be Summertime and Artissimo. So those are two sort of only musical events we really sponsor. And from sports events, the only significant sponsorship we provide is really for Latvian inline hockey team, which actually at the moment is being in World Championship Group B. That would be almost it from sort of pan-Latvian sort of events. Yes, we do consider our company socially responsible because most of our sponsorships is something that wider public probably doesn't even know about, and they are targeted at pretty much the local community of Olaine and the neighborhoods. And here indeed, I can say that very many things related to young people, their sport, their musical hobbies, their leisure time activities, whatever. Very many of them are actually taking place with our support. So yes, we are therefore considering ourselves socially responsible company. But how much are we how much are we ready to invest to maintain that? I mean, overall, our sponsorships haven't been huge. We've been talking up to what, €500,000 a year max. So I think for the company our size, that's not a huge amount. Agita?
Thank you. And I see one of our participants has wrote a question. And, are there any news regarding your plans of acquiring a bigger share in Silvanels anytime soon?
There are no news that I can report to you right now, but there might be anytime soon, to answer your question. So
Okay,
no more details at the moment.
thank you.
Agita?
Yes, thank you, Sally. At the moment, I see there is not appearing any new question from our participants.
Well,
If
that's
no
interesting.
one,
Yeah, like I said, either everybody is pretty much in a summer mood, or the presentation has been very explanatory. No, we have two people writing something.
yeah, let's wait a little bit.
No, they changed their mind.
Okay, so question is, what about acquiring another pharmaceutical company? In previous webinars, you mentioned that this is likely to happen, but there were no specific plans at that time.
Yeah, nothing has changed. This indeed is likely to happen. We are indeed from time to time studying companies here and there. And since our last webinar, we have a couple of new ideas that we have studied. But pretty much like one webinar ago, there has been a major progress. I mean, we have looked at several companies. We have sort of put them on hold for time being. We haven't decided to do anything instantly about them. Obviously, because the companies haven't been that interesting. But we continue search. So if somebody of you has a nice company in mind, let us know. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you very much. I see there was like one person trying to write a question, but Yes, still. Okay, we have it. Do you have insurance against currency risk for next quarters of this year? And did you buy it for whole year or do it for each quarter separately?
No, we do not have any insurance against any currency risks. Basically, the way we manage our currency is currency risks is for instance, the biggest market, Russia. We have our prices sort of internally denominated in euros, but then for every quarter we agree on with wholesalers, we agree on a new exchange rate that we would apply, and currently for Q2 it is the exchange rate of 55 rubles for euro, which is a bit above the official rate, but sort of that accommodates all the risks. But for other countries, we do not have currency insurance, but we normally try to price the currency risks in. So the countries with higher currency risks would be buying our products with a premium. At the same time, let me remind you that the really risks that we have are reasonably limited, because for all our key markets except Russia, we do ship products, we do write invoices in euros, and formally we do not have any currency risk. However, the sort of good practice, or yes, you can say called a market practice, has been that if the local wholesaler has been suffering a currency risk because that particular wholesaler has been distributing products of a particular producer, the market standard, the market tradition, the market principle is that the currency losses that the wholesaler got from selling products of a particular producer are then split. Right. So yeah, this is pretty much how the market has been operating in those unstable currency markets. So, but to answer your question is short answer to this is long answer. Short answer to your question is no, we do not have any currency insurance. Egita?
Thank you. So I see there are no new questions coming in. So so I guess everything was pretty explanatory, what you already told in your presentation and in answers. So I guess then we can finish this webinar this time, and I can tell you that the recording of webinar and presentation will be available shortly. So please follow up the Olainfarm announcements on Nasdaq OMX Baltic webpage. So I can tell thank you very much, Salvis, for your presentation and all participants who joined us today.
Thank you, Egita. And because next webinar, if nothing urgent happens, next webinar we are going to have in 3 months from now. That's going to be in early September. Let me wish all of you a very, very nice and sunny summer. Stay healthy, enjoy the sun, and all the best for you, and see you in 3 months.
Thank you.
Thank you.